That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
These are the sorts of things that we should talk about right in the first 5 minutes of the podcast.
Started giving people free quotes. Isn't sunshine and rainbows, and isn't, everyone sees you doing so well.
For just being a solo
The
operator.
change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
And welcome to the dungeon. Today I've got Darren Tooth from Hunter Lawncare Supplies on the other end. How are you going, Darren?
Yeah, I'm going well, Gary. How are you, buddy? Thanks.
I'm starting to relax at the end of the day, so trying to notch up a couple more interviews before I head away for a month. I'm heading up to Cape York on the 1st of July.
Oh, really? Are you driving? Four-wheel drive? Yeah, nice.
Jump in the car here on the Monday morning and try and get up to Cairns by Wednesday afternoon.
Okay, that's a nice drive.
Yeah.
Nice little leisurely drive.
Well, the rest of the drive is the fun bit. That bit's the horrible bit.
That's right. Yeah, once you get up there, you're fine, but it's that long tediousness, I guess. But no, it'd be good fun once you get up there.
But all my listeners are probably getting sick of listening to me talk about going to Cape York. They're like, stop having holidays, Gary.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the nature of our business, where it's seasonal and it's, you travel in the winter.
I say fortunately, but that's unfortunate when it comes to making money.
That's right, yeah. But, there's a downtime. So if you're going to do it, take your time off. Now's the time.
That's right.
Yes.
Darren, I want to start this episode with just helping people learn a little bit about who you are. So we generally try and cover a bit of history, and we introduced you as running Hunter Lawncare Supplies.
Yep.
What were you doing before this?
I started as an apprentice greenkeeper in February 1983 at Raymond Terrace Bowling Club.
That dates you as a little bit older than me, because I think I was starting primary school around then.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah. Yes. Now that's actually not grey hair. That's sun bleach from being out in the sun. So that's my argument. So I had 4 years at Raymond Terrace as an apprentice.
Did you say Bowling Green or golf course?
Yeah, bowls. Yeah,
Bowling Green. Yeah.
The head greenkeeper there was Tom Mulley, who was a brilliant guy, very cluey guy. I left there and went to Bar Beach Bowling Club at Newcastle.
Is that the one that was up the hill?
No, it was on one down on the flat down there at Empire Park. It's straight across the road from the beach.
Okay, yeah.
So I was a head greenkeeper there for 6 years or something. As a 21-year-old kid, working across the road from the beach, mate, I had landed in paradise.
I bet.
Look, that was a really hard gig because it was, at the time, it was called Comsteel Newcastle South Bowling Club.
Yeah, okay.
Newcastle South Bowling Club went bust, so Comsteel Bowling Club moved over and amalgamated.
Yeah.
So two struggling clubs became one. That was really hard insofar as I had a very, very small budget to operate on. I had to be incredibly careful of what I bought. I was there pretty much by myself, except for a bit of volunteer work or a casual, for a day or two at renovation time. My lunch times, I used to have to work in half an hour behind the bar to relieve the barmaid at the time. So there was only basically two of us there.
Yep.
So, but that was good. So that they were really interesting times. I absolutely loved it. 21-year-old kid when I got there, and
21 working across the road from the beach, and this is how you met your wife.
No. Good years. They were incredibly good years. Very, very long hours. I was incredibly dedicated back in the day there, like I was all the way along. But I was really keen to put my mark on the place, and especially for those guys where they hadn't had like any representative games or anything like that there for a long time. So I was incredibly keen and passionate to turn the club around and get the surfaces, get the greens up to a really good standard. And in time we did. It only took a few years, but rebuilt the drainage on one green and got rid of another invasive species out of the other green. And we brought them up to a standard where we're having the pennant playoffs and things like that there. So
nice.
So
I'm guessing back then the grass for a bowling green would have been couch.
Oh, they still are, yeah. So one was National Park couch, and the other one was Tiff Dwarf. So
dwarf, okay.
Both Tiff Dwarf is an ultra dwarf, so it's a really great species of grass, cultivar, but two ends of the scale insofar as the maintenance requirements.
Yeah.
Really, really so.
One's slower growing than the other by the sounds of it.
Oh, yeah. So much different, completely different. So, yes, they were good times. From there, I went over to Talara Bowling Club as the assistant greenkeeper. And when I started over there, I think it was 94.
So this is getting closer to when I finished in high school.
There you go, yes. You whippersnappers. So I went to work under a guy called Jeff Clack. Jeff was known as one of the top greenkeepers in the Hunter Valley. So I jumped at the opportunity to go there and work under Jeff. Yep. There's a lot of good greenkeepers around. Jeff was one of them. I combined my initial mentor, Tom Mulley, with my own ideas, and then I moulded, again, I went to work with Jeff and got a whole different perspective on greens maintenance and turf maintenance and just turf in general, machinery maintenance to a whole new level.
What sort of mowers did you use when you're doing the greens?
They were 30-inch Scott Bonnet Queens.
Okay, so Scott Bonner was commercial use machine back then.
Yeah, big 30-inch mowers, 3-phase electric. We done all our own maintenance, all our own servicing. Every winter we would completely strip all the mowers down.
Would you backlap the cylinders, or do you only do a full grind?
Yeah, no, regularly we would backlap. So the way it worked, generally the apprentice or one of us would finish, about half an hour, 45 minutes or so before knock-off time. They would get the mowers that we'd wash down and put out in the sun for the day and check to make sure they're all cutting and ready to go for the next morning. That could involve giving them a backlap, just giving the bottom blade a quick file or adjust it or whatever needed to do. Then it was put away to bed of a night so we could get it out first thing in the morning.
Don't laugh at me here, but I used a cylinder mower in my backyard for a year or two.
Yeah.
And in that time, this is before I put a robotic mower on my backyard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't sharpen my blades once. And
didn't you?
I let a friend borrow the mower, and I said, on the condition that you backlap the blades for me.
Nice. Good try.
So after at least a year of mowing probably 2 or 3 times a week on my backyard, 600 square meters.
Yeah, right.
And like, yep. And I would adjust the blade, but hadn't backlapped them or ground them or anything.
The most important part is to reface that bottom blade. So even if you didn't backlap, you would at least give the bottom blade a file, or with the new bed knife buddies, things like that. But
interesting.
Oh, we could backlap if we were cutting a green at renovation time. We might have mowed a green, half a dozen times. There's nothing out of the ordinary for us to take in between cuts take the mower off, backlap it, put it back out there, away you go again. And
Yeah.
I could spend a day mowing one green, you know.
So with greens in Newcastle, I've heard different people say different things here. So your 30-inch Scott Bonner, and you're doing I guess, different grasses, so it might change. But how thick would your bottom plate be?
What thickness of bottom blade?
Because this will affect your best height of cut.
Well, it depends whether we use a thick bottom blade, like for renovation time. So they might have been 3 or 4 mil or something like that. Oh, no, they wouldn't have been that, maybe 3 mil. But then you could have gone down to a really thin blade, championship sort of blade, that might have been 1 mil or 2 maybe. But,
so if you want a fast green, then you getting the lowest cut you can.
Yeah. Different specific bottom blades for a different time of year.
Wow.
And when the greens are in play, you're cutting at what, 20 cents max, 20 cent thickness. So I don't know what that would be, 2 mil, maybe 3 mil or something like that.
Probably 2.5, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So, so Talara, I was the assistant. Jeff ended up retiring, and I just took over. And we kept that rotation of the apprentice. We'd put an apprentice on. After his time, he would go to the assistant. The assistant would stay for 4 years. We put a new apprentice on. After his time, he would go to the assistant, and you have an apprentice rotation, apprentice assistant greenkeeper rotation all the time.
Yep.
So we kept that happening. So we're always churning out apprentices. But and then when Jeff retired, I went to the head greenkeeper role. So we had three greens over there, three different grasses, all couch. We had a C29 was our bottom one. The middle green was Wyong couch, and the top green was Greenleys Park. All different requirements, different drainage, different sub base.
Yeah,
all had to be all had to be treated, maintained differently, but all had the same quality surface. So we didn't have a couch program, which is seems to be the thing in some places. You have a one size fits all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of one size fits all, I talk to a lot of people that are doing residential yards, and if you're doing residential yards in the Newcastle area, because I'm Lake Macquarie, so I'm not too far from you.
Yep.
Typical residential yards will have a mix of couch and kikuyu and buffalo. If you go to Queensland, the contractors up there complain about us down here and our cowboy antics, because they have to have really sharp blades and they have to deal with a lot of Queensland couch.
Oh, Queensland blue.
Typical up there for them to have a lot of yards that are all couch. And you know full well, if you're cutting with a rotary mower and you're cutting couch, you've got to be able to cut it sharp and you've got to be able to collect it in the bag. If you're mulching couch, it's probably not going to look great.
No, it's not ideal. And that's a little bit of consternation as well. Do you catch or do you mulch?
That's a big debate in the lawn care industry.
So I believe. Look, I've never, I don't like to mulch. I always prefer to catch.
With your background, that's not surprising.
I think just for the cleanliness and the sterility, keeping the mat and the thatch and that waxy build up out of the canopy of the grass, which is a really, really important thing. As that grass is, they talk about returning nutrients to the soil, but as that grass is breaking down, it's giving off a waxy, like an exudate that can actually cover the soil to a degree. So your nutrients in your water don't get full efficiency from that. In that build up layer, that's where your black beetle larvae and your insects can lay eggs and things like that. So yes, but I do understand. I get your point about the catch versus mulch. So
yeah, and keep in mind, a lot of my listeners are going to be mowing fortnightly compared to you doing daily or several times a week.
yeah, that's right.
So I know I've got a photo that one of my interviews sent me, and it had half of his lawn done with a robotic mower, which meant it was getting cut daily.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the other half he was doing with a ride-on mower, which was getting done fortnightly. And that's night and day difference. The daily cut with the robot is green and nice, thick coverage. And the lawn that's getting cut fortnightly with the ride-on mower looks sparse and brown because it looks like it's been scalped every time he mows.
Well, that's what happens. So the more often you mow, you're literally mowing is mowing, scalping is scalping. But look, I get it from the lawn contractor's point of view that by and large, the large percentage of their clients only want a fortnightly visit. It is what it is.
Well, I'm a big advocate for pushing contractors to offer weekly cuts to their customers. And, if you give your customer 3 options, then they're likely to go for the middle option.
Yeah.
But if you only offer fortnightly cuts, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. But more importantly, I've had one customer where I actually parted ways with them because they could only afford fortnightly cuts, and it was growing 1 foot or more every fortnight. It was kikuyu, and it was well fertilized, and you couldn't keep up with it. And I said to him, look, you've got 2 options here. One is you keep getting me to cut fortnightly, and in a couple of months it's going to be winter, because when I was doing that, that's where we were up to. I think it was March. I was like, in a couple of months it's going to be winter. It's going to be so sparse. You won't have turf. You will just have dead lawn and lots of dirt showing through. I said, you got to do weekly. And I said, if you can't afford to pay me weekly, go and buy yourself a mower and cut it weekly or more.
Yeah.
And
you really do.
Now I would have said put a robot mower on it as well.
Yes. They were good times. So Talara, so going back to that, Talara was a great club. From there, I went down. We went to Melbourne for 8 years. I applied for a job as the garden maintenance manager for a big high-end landscape company called Garden Ridge.
Yep.
Their landscape construction side of things, I guess average landscape bill could have been $200,000 to $300,000.
Yeah.
Our clientele were, lifestyles of the rich and famous, television personalities, sport personalities. A kid from the bush up here, landing in these multi-million-dollar homes with amazing gardens was something else. But what I brought to them was a little bit of professionalism and attention to detail, which was good. So I stayed with those guys for 6 years. Then I thought, hang on, I'll go and do this myself. So we started up Lakeside Garden Care from Glen Waverley, and we run that up until 2017 when we decided to come home.
Okay.
And then when we moved back here to Port Stephens, we just started off where we left off, doing sort of high-end, lawns, what I call the residential greenkeeping with our cylinder mowers and things like that, and horticulture. We only had 10 clients. That's all we needed. They looked after me. I looked after them incredibly well.
Yep.
Then I just got to the point where I thought, I really don't want to be on the tools anymore. So this is just a natural progression. The shop here is a natural progression where I can impart some of the knowledge that I've gained and my experience. And there's not too many turf-related issues that I haven't come across. And I enjoy talking to people like yourself or people that ring up or come in and sit down, we'll have a coffee, and they talk about, and they'll bring in photos of their issues, their lawns, and blah, blah, blah. So I actually love doing what I'm doing. If I can help, I help. It is really it's awesome. I'm actually really enjoying it, and the business is
Yeah.
only 2 years old. 1st of July will be 2 years old.
Okay.
So I really, really love what I'm doing at present.
So, Darren, before we started recording, you mentioned a couple of things you've done in your career prior to the shop here that
Yeah.
are really standout things. So, one of them was the development of a greenkeeper sprayer.
Yeah, that was the spray dome. So there was a GT 2300. So there wasn't, as OH&S become really come to the forefront of things, and not only that, not only the OH&S side of things, but duty of care and more professionalism.
Yeah.
I was looking for a better way to apply things, to apply products to the greens.
Yep.
So I found a company in South Australia, the Spray Dome, and it was basically poly shrouds for vineyards and for councils and things like that. A poly shroud over their spray jet, the T-jet nozzles, but with a brush around the outside. So they had nothing for greens. They only had a 1.2 round one. So over about 8 months or something, we had all these prototypes would lob on the doorstep. We end up, the final result was a machine that was 3 meters wide, had drop down wings. It had 7 nozzles across, with an 80-litre tank, agitator, foam droppers on each end. So they basically went wild, as in sales across the country. So a lot of greenkeeper sheds had a spray dome in it.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, when they went bust, or I don't know if they went bust actually. So when they closed down, the new one, the BAE pumps and sprayers, they developed theirs. I think it's a GK75, basically the same thing.
I think I'm looking at it now. It says 75-litre greenskeeper is what it's listed as.
That's the one. That's the one. So that was,
and they've got several options: GK75. Then they've got an F on the end, or a 2M, or a 2MF.
So they go from a 1.5 up to a 2 metre width. Again, there's agitators, there's foam drippers on the ends. There's all sorts of things. They are a really good machine. There's no doubt about it. They just do a great job, and it allows you to look. It could have been blowing a gale, on the greens, and with that spray dome, it didn't matter because the spray wasn't being affected, wasn't blown around. So that was really good. It was I learned a whole new realm of design, not designing, but working through a prototype, bringing a piece of equipment into fruition. So that was good.
A couple of questions about these. I'm interested to know what you can tell me about this, and we might have to look up information to find it somewhere even. Do you know roughly what these sell for at the moment? I'm guessing there's different prices depending on whether they come with the 1.5 or the 2 metre boom and foam markers. Or
that's right. I think the base model is somewhere. Look, now don't quote me, but the base model somewhere around the 5.5.
Yeah, okay.
Somewhere around there. There's a couple of different machines. So you've got the BA pumps and sprayers. They have that. There's also a CDAX, which is a little bit smaller machine with, I think it may be a 50-litre pedestrian sprayer. MoSharp also, MoMaster, sorry, also have a pedestrian push-behind sprayer. For the professional type ones, for you guys and professional.
Did you move to MoMaster at some point with your cylinder mowers as well?
Yes, I keep MoMaster. So that's my only brand of cylinder mower now.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether when you went into looking after your 10 high-end customers, whether you were using a Scott Bonner or a Momaster or something in between.
No, I had a 1973 Scott Bonner, which I'd had for years, and basically stripped down to 1,000,000 parts and completely rebuilt it.
Nice.
So that was mine. Then I bought another one. It was an 84 model.
Yep.
Done the same thing again. Stripped down. I turned into a groomer.
The cylinder mower that I own, which my friend is still using, the one that did the backlapping for me.
Yes.
I believe it's a Morrison of some description.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Morrison, I believe, might have been an early Massport, perhaps.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there.
I think they're almost identical. They're probably the same machine.
Yeah, I think so. I could be wrong, and wouldn't be the first time I've been known to be wrong.
Well, we're speculating. So one other thing, in your history, you mentioned that you've worked on and helped develop a specific fertilizer. And I quizzed you on this because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But I'm a novice when it comes to fertilizers. So I'm like, I'm going to ask you the hard question. So tell me about this. You call it Inoculate XN. Yeah. And it's a very specific purpose, isn't it?
It is. Look, back in 2000 or 2001, this brand new fertilizer came out. And it had all the bits and pieces in it, trace elements, macro, micronutrients. But the one thing that really stood out to me, because I was right into the biological and the biological soil health things with my greens.
Yeah.
So I got to
the
point. Yeah, I got to the point where I wasn't using any chemicals and things like that on one particular green. It took about 3 years. So once this fertilizer come in, I thought I've got to have a go at this, because your biologicals and your humates, humic acid and things like that have a synergy with the nutrients that they just get the best. They create conditions that the plant will take up the maximum nutrition, make the most out of the fertilizers.
Yeah.
So this fertilizer come out. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm old school. I like using manure and compost, and really getting into the traditional means of fertilizing lawn.
So and that's perfect. What the organics do is drive the microbes nuts.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is searching out, looking for food to turn into a form the plant can take up. Yep. So that's what you're doing there. There is a very small nutritional value in manures, but it makes the soil healthy, really healthy.
Yeah.
So when Inoculate come out, I said, I'll have a go at this.
Yep.
And we had our number one green. One of our greens was out. So I used 5 bags on our green to get it kicked back, and it gave us a little response. But when you've got a green out from renovation and you've scarified it, you've aerated it, and you've shredded it, there's nothing left at all. You need a fertilizer high in nitrogen you've got to get that green back in 6 weeks. You haven't got time to wait. So I said to the rep, this is just not performing. It's not. It's good as a maintenance fertilizer, but not what we want. No, it should be fine. I said, well, I'm telling you, it's not. So I end up contacting Wayne from Barmac, who was the owner of Barmac and the manufacturer, and we had some robust discussions about this fertilizer, and it turned out, he said, well, if that's the case, would you be prepared to do a trial for me if I make a few tweaks and do a trial for me? I said, yeah, I will. So when our next green, we renovated our next green, we had this fertilizer there written in Texter, Inoculate XN, and it was extra nitrogen.
Yeah.
The results we got from that was nothing short of outstanding. It was an amazing fertilizer, and I haven't used it for a while. But I'm assuming if they haven't changed anything, it's exactly what you need. The high nitrogen, you can't if you've got a green out or a lawn, you've renovated your lawn, you've scarified your lawn, you need to get it back
Yep.
to full coverage as quick as possible. So that's when
Yeah.
you use that specific fertilizer. So
And I'm guessing you're not doing a lot of lawn renos or working on the greens these days. So
no, zero.
Yeah.
And happy about it. So that's where you use that specific fertilizer. Now,
yeah.
I do have fertilizers now that pretty much do exactly the same thing. 2-in-1 fertilizers where they're plant nutrition and the organics and carbon that will do exactly the same thing.
Well, look, I want to get into the technical details with fertilizers with you in a minute, but while we're just wrapping up your history there, so that's one that you helped do the research on, do the initial testing on it, and
that was in 2001. Now, 2001, we helped with Inoculate XN, so that was good.
Being a complete fertilizer novice, and like I said, I've come from the cowboy end, and I'm working my way up.
Yeah, you can get there, young fella.
When I've put a trailer load of chook manure on my lawn, I haven't had to water it in, and when I've put dynamic lifter on my lawn, I haven't had to water it in. But when I grabbed a bag of nitrogen pellets and chucked them on my lawn, made a big burn patch on it, and everybody knows you got to water it in, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
But the question is, like, if you take a standard inoculate and you throw it on your lawn, I mean, spread it, of course, with a spreader, so you're getting the correct coverage, and not getting clumps of it that burn. Is it different watering in rates to if you use the XN version?
No, they've all got to be watered in, almost straight away. There's not many fertilizers at all you don't have to water it in, and it comes down to coating. So you generally, to avoid a burn, you generally water them in straight away.
And if I understand correctly, I've heard other people talk about doing, say, 2 mils of watering in or something to that effect. Does that sound about right?
Oh, I'd be going more than that. I'd be thinking at least 2, because you want to get it broken down. You've got to get it off the surface. You want to get those prills broken down and into the soil.
So at least 2 mils, or at least?
I'd be thinking at least sort of 6. At least 6. I would have thought. That's what I'd be hoping for. So if I was going to feed a client's lawn, I would give it anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour.
Yep. And that's if they've got a full sprinkler system in place, right? If they don't have a sprinkler system and you're doing that, then it's a different.
Even I would, even if it was just a manual move around sprinkler, what I would do in that situation would be, okay, I'll fertilise that section there and I'll put the sprinkler on.
Yep.
When that's finished, it's time. I'll fertilise this section here and I'll put the sprinkler on.
So you wouldn't even put the fertiliser on the whole lawn. You would do it only on the section you're watering in immediately.
No, because I wouldn't want the chance of those prills, the granules breaking, and that's where you get the burn sometimes. Depending on the, if that prill starts to seep, if you put it out, for instance, on a dewy lawn, all of a sudden that granule's going to open and release and get a flush of fertiliser, and that's where you get your burn.
It releases on the leaf instead of on them.
So you get that massive burn. So, So, no, do it section at a time.
Look, I'm not a complete novice now, but it's good to hear it from you as to what the recommendations are there. And I think that's good for people to hear, because we get people from the full spectrum listening.
Yeah, I get.
Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas, and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right standards go the distance, saving you time and money season after season. Right, Darren. So we've covered your history.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you some tough questions around business before we move into your specialty of giving advice to customers.
All right.
Now, you've mentioned already you've been in business for about 2 years, yeah?
Yeah. 1st of July 22. So we're actually fast approaching. What's today? The 13th. So we're coming up on 2 years.
Now, you also were running your own business before you started Hunter Lawncare Supplies. So what do you call it? Lakeside Gardens?
Lakeside Garden Care.
Lakeside Garden Care. And that was down in Victoria?
It was in Melbourne, in a Melbourne, and then we just relocated back home and kept it running. So all up, yeah.
So you've got business exposure through being in maintenance on residential jobs as well as the Hunter Lawn Care Supplies. So that gives a bit of balance for people listening. But in terms of a maintenance business, it's going to look very different to a lawn care supplies business in how you run the business.
Yeah.
So,
very much so.
Can we touch on that? So when you were doing maintenance, you said 10 customers, and that was enough to keep you busy and keep you happy,
Absolutely.
right?
That's all we needed. Some of our clients were highly professional people who were happy to pay for excellent results. So at the same time, if you pulled out 500 weeds but you left one, they would see that one. And it's just not good enough. So it was all about attention to detail. So they expected excellent results, and we gave them as good as we could. Their lawns were as good as I could get them. Our gardens were as good. We had lots of different theme gardens. From it could have been anything.
Yeah. No, it's good to compare because I've got listeners and people I've interviewed that cover the full spectrum. So I'd see typically a solo person might look after 50 to 100 lawns.
Yeah.
And, obviously there's a lot of variables that determine how much work you do and how much you need to earn.
Yeah.
So that's going to be different for everybody. But if we talk ballpark there, you'd say the average person who's doing 50 to 100 lawns and doing it 5 days a week, they're probably in today's money, they're going to be turning over somewhere over $100,000, hopefully. And I've heard people on average between 150 and up to $300,000 turnover solo.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But if you take an average business, you'd say you want to be doing between 80 and 120,000 to just say that you're at that point where 5 days a week is worth doing.
Oh, look, we were nowhere near that, and we were more about lifestyle. But it really depends, I guess, on what stage of life you're into. So if I had been, 25 and a young family with a new mortgage, mate, I would have been trying to build it as big as I could. And in Melbourne, we were getting to the pointy end of the business down there because some of our clientele, we had 147 clients in Melbourne.
Wow. Yeah, so completely different to your 10 clients up here.
Oh yeah, mate. They were all high end stuff, and we had a couple of teams running. We're also doing softscaping as well. So our turnover down there was phenomenal. But personal reasons, Dad passed away, so we moved back. So I had a whole new philosophy. Okay, my wife got a great job. Let's work on firstly paying the mortgage off, earning a wage for myself and for my son who worked with me. Basically, that's how we looked at it. So at the time, hourly rate, I think we were 65 an hour ex GST, and it just depended. Every client had their own day, so whether we were there for half an hour or half the day or a full day.
Yep.
We would stay there until we got through all of the work for that particular client.
Now, hourly rate's a really interesting thing because it's going to be very variable depending on whether you're in a city or in a rural area, and whether you're doing 10-minute jobs or doing one job for a whole day in the same place.
Yep.
There's a lot of variables there. I think when I started, I was aiming for $50 an hour, and that's in 2010.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a lot of people are saying minimum of $100 an hour is what they're aiming for. So it's gone up a lot with cost of living in the last 2 years.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, I know a guy who was a couple of years younger than me, but he was a greenkeeper as well, a different part of the state. Who where are we now? About 3-4 years ago, and he was on 120 an hour, considering his qualifications and experience.
Yeah.
Would I get $120 an hour here on the Port Stephens Peninsula? No way in the world.
Yeah.
So it really depends on your demographic and where you're located.
For sure.
But as
I guess what I want to sort of roll into from there is when that gives people your background with the previous business, but then once you've started this business, you're not working on the same sort of numbers, are you?
No, mate.
So you can't sit there and go, well, I did an hour's work and I'm going to get $100.
This is a whole new learning curve, let me tell you.
Yep.
When it comes down to it, I'm just a greenkeeper with a shop. I'm still in greenkeeping mode, and I am highly guided by my financial advisor and my accountant.
Yep.
So they look at my spreadsheets weekly to see where we're going. I'm also guided by my IT lady. So look, I know where my skill set lies, and it's certainly not in marketing or finance or anything like that.
Yeah.
We probably should be making more than what we do. We're breaking even, which both of those guys, the accountant and financial advisor, are happy if we can break even in the first 2 years.
That's good.
So, but as you said, changing over from that side of thing to running a business, it's about what I've found. It's about finding your customer base, working out what products to actually keep. So I started with a lot of products, lots and lots of products, and I've found that some had to go back because I didn't sell one.
Fair enough.
We're narrowing in on the things that people need from the residential side of things, which are our major market, the residential homeowner. But I can't stock everything, but I get a lot of things in. So there's not much that I can't source. We send products all around Australia for homeowners to landscapers to gardeners to lawn care guys. So we don't see a lot of the products, so they'll come straight from the warehouse. Products on my online shop might be marked as none in stock. That doesn't mean I can't get it. So it's very much knowing what to keep, when to keep it, and how much of a product. But if you had a look at my shelves here now and the floor where the fertilizers go, there are gaps.
Yep.
So
room for you to grow.
Sorry,
room for you to grow.
Look, no, it's summertime. Those shelves on the floor. I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot of gaps there. But we've just let things go somewhat.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because we just don't need them at this time of year. So
I went into a nut and bolt shop, otherwise known as fasteners.
Oh yes,
and went in there recently to try and get something that was, I think they call it UMC Imperial.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And they gave me a strange look, and they're like, "We don't carry anything UMC."
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, no worries. I normally go to another fastener shop that's closer to me, and they tend to carry a bit of everything. I said, are you targeting only roofing, roofers and that type of market? And they're like, oh, no, we're hoping to get into a lot more range, but we don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
And so I can see, particularly when you've got to carry product on shelves, having the warehouse space and the customers to buy the product, because there's no point having a warehouse full of product that doesn't sell.
Correct. Yeah.
All those things
absolutely.
come into it. So it's a fascinating thing to look at. But for most people listening to me, they're going to go, now that doesn't help me run my lawn care business. But it is interesting to know where you're up to. So it's great to know that in the 2 years,
my showroom here is 6x5. So 6 or 7x5. So I'm very limited to what I can actually put on show here on the shelves.
Yep.
The warehouse, but in an ideal scenario, my showroom needs to be the size of this shed, which is 125 square meters, because of all the products that I can stock, that I can source. Look, there's companies that want me to stock their stuff, but I've just literally got nowhere to put it. So, our lease here is for another 12 months after 1st of July. We're hoping to go to bigger premises so I can lay it out a lot better.
Nice.
So that's where we're going. But would I go back to outside? No, I wouldn't go back to outside. So I make the most of what I've got here. In a wide range of stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.